Hey, hey, hey! I think we are successfully streaming everywhere. I'm doing things a little bit differently tonight, but it's great to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you want to join me in the comments, let me know where you're joining me from, what time zone you're on. Hey, G's already on Instagram there. We are currently multicasting to Twitter, to Facebook, to LinkedIn, and to YouTube, as well as Instagram. Hey, Tom, it's great to see you too on Instagram as well. So fantastic. It's great to have you here at the Live at 5 mini series. And this is the third one of 6 that we're doing. Let me explain the concept to you a little bit if you are joining us for the first time. So do you remember, are you old enough to remember back in the 90s, late 80s, 90s? I was a tween and a teen then. You'd get girls' teenage magazines, and inside there'd be loads of posters of beautiful looking men, usually. Hey, Chloe, it's good to see you. And you would put the posters up on your wall. But the first thing that me and all of my friends did every time we got one of these magazines is we'd rifle to the back page to look at the problem pages. And the things I learned from the problem pages of Ms. Magazine, Just 17, Bliss, Smash Hit, all of those great magazines was pretty informative to me. I was pretty naive, I think, when I was young. I lived quite a sheltered life, but we learned a lot. And this was the kind of thing that we'd all look at and fall about laughing at when we were waiting for the school bus in the morning or when we were at sleepovers at nighttime. So that's the concept that I'm trying to inject into this live. And it's all about you lot sharing your problems or your weird stories or asking me questions about things to do with your brand. So today's brand problem, and you can see it on the top of the screen here if you're not on Instagram, it's about struggling to make creative decisions and how that is actually probably a branding problem. Now, we all relate to what it feels like to be in decision paralysis. I think that's a normal feeling to have when you're an entrepreneur and also when you're a female entrepreneur. Um, I've certainly had it, and it can look like this, right? So it can be like you're trying to make a real basic decision and you're so tired and exhausted that you don't feel confident in yourself of making that decision. Hey, Lauren, it's good to see you on Instagram. And you start asking all your friends. So you start asking like people in your family who don't know about your business, what should I do about this thing? And then they just tell you, I trust you. You're amazing. Go with what you think's best. And you're like, well, thanks very much, but that didn't really help me. So then you go to your business friends. Maybe you've got a mentor or a coach or just a bunch of business friends that you hang out with in a certain group or a membership. And you start asking all of them for their opinion. Hey, I'm doing this thing. What do you think I should do to pick the right one? The one that really gets my go is this happens all the time on LinkedIn. And I know a lot of people take advantage of this, but they'll post like 5 ideas for a logo or 5 photos from a photo shoot, a brand photo shoot. And they'll say, which one shall I use? And it really drives me mad because Yes, you might get a lot of comments and you might get a lot of engagement, and you're kind of telling everyone under the radar, look, I've got a new logo, or look, I've just had my brand headshots done. But really, it's showing you as someone who's indecisive. And I have a problem with that as a feminist. And I have a problem with that as a branding person, because you're indicating in a subliminal way that you're not really sure about what it is you're doing. Um, I've got other examples of this. If you relate to this and you know what it feels like when you're struggling to make a creative decision, please go ahead and tell us in the comments, and we'll see if we can get into that. As always with the Live at 5, I've asked people to pre-submit their stories and questions and comments and shares, and I've got 3 amazing ones tonight from 3 very different but equally amazing women. Before we get into that, though, I want to tell you a little bit more about what's sponsoring the show. So let me see if I can just figure out how to do this little la 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 la. Okay, on the landscape stream, you will see that there's a link where I'm saying that you can apply to my On Her Terms branding program. If you're on Instagram, you can either wait till the end of the live's over, you can take a look in the comments on the replay, or you can skip straight over to the bio link, and there's a button right there waiting for you to go and apply or get a little bit of a feel about what goes on inside my branding program, all of the information about how it works. But this is what is sponsoring this mini series, the Laura's Live at 5 series. And this is a program that is quite specific and niche. So it's aimed specifically at expert female business owners who want to start shaping the brand that they've built. Maybe it's been held together with like spit and bandages and a bit of duct tape and a bit of rusty old like moldy blue tack, and it's just kind of like a ramshackle MVP, minimum viable product version of itself. And you know that you need to refine your brand and get it to the point that it wants to be. Maybe you feel like your brand has become a little bit of this weird Frankenstein beast and it's out of control. But the thing that ties all of the women together who join this program is that they are sick of not living life on their terms. Maybe they want their business to make more money so that they can go on holiday more, because that's something that's important to them, to live a life on their terms. Maybe it's more that this woman is sick of spending 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and she's done it for the last 10 years in her business. And she knows that now's the time to delegate, but her brand's all in her head, and she can't delegate that until she gets it out of her head in doing this program. So the commonality that ties everyone together is you want to start shaping your brand so that it's more on your terms, and live a career and a life that feels more true to what you want at this phase in your life and career. Let's start with the first problem then, shall we? So the first problem has been submitted from a new business friend of mine, Natasha Lee. She's I'm That Girl Natasha on Instagram, and that's usually where she hangs out, by the way. If you want to get in touch, I'm sure she'll be in the comments at some stage. Little Big Breakfast cards here, if you remember the Big Breakfast. It's a little kitsch reference from the 90s. Okay, so the first problem from Natasha is the other thing that I wanted to say about her is she's a real force to be reckoned with. So when you go and check out her feed, you'll get that energy from her straight away. She's a really interesting creative consultant. She does a bit of coaching. She's a very well-connected woman in America. But let me read what she said. So Natasha says, being custom is what has made my agency so special. And I believe that traditional professionals and business owners who take less risks or are risk averse are probably blocked with creativity. I would agree with that, Natasha. So they would rather follow a dull blueprint. And yes, I agree, that does compromise creativity. It's like treating your brand in like a tick box exercise, like logo, tick, some photos, tick, some colors, tick. When you get all of those little bits of touch points and you've got nothing tying it together, it's probably not going to work. And it's certainly not going to be memorable. So they don't realize that they have creativity locked away deep down inside of them. That's such a beautiful way of putting it, isn't it? Laura, what techniques do you use to help them build bravery, and how can I get them to trust my process? So I think here what Natasha's saying is part of what she's doing is unleashing that creative from the people that she works with. But she works with some corporate types, maybe they're people who are in leadership roles. I know she's very heavy on personal brand. So maybe you're like a leader within a big organization. You've got no plans to leave that organization, but you want to start positioning yourself as a thought leader. Maybe you want to start getting paid to book to speak, or maybe you've got writing a book on your mind. But these people need to build a personal brand. But because they're in this corporate structure, maybe they're a little bit institutionalized and traditional in what it is that they're so good at doing, they don't know how to break free and break out from that creativity. That's really interesting. So there's a connection here to the program. In that, I think this is part of what I tend to do in the first phase of the program, Natasha. So, the first phase of the program is all about taking stock. Sometimes people call this a brand audit. I like to refer to it, and I think you will appreciate this. It's just about getting real. Let's just get real about what the deal is here. Why are you not being creative? Do you think that you're being really creative and actually you're just being mega boring? What's the real situation here? So that would be the first thing that I would put all of my clients through. It's actually I sell that as a standalone service, actually, a brand audit, where I just go through a business like a dose of salt and give them the reality check that they need. You might think about creating that as part of your onboarding process. And actually, you might enjoy going back and listening to a previous week live. I think it was the last time where we were talking about terrible customers. I'm not saying that your customers are terrible, not by any stretch. I'm sure they're amazing. But we were talking about how branding can be connected to an onboarding process or a firing process or a payment process. All of the operational systems and processes that you have in your business should have a branding flourish on them. And knowing about your incredible energy, Natasha, I think this would just be a situation of getting them in the room and you just kind of pulling, extracting the truth out of them, and then maybe reflecting that back to them in a way that is in line with the way that you show up. So maybe it's something like a personal branding audit, but the whole concept there is about just getting real. Let's just get real about where you really are here, and then we can start working on what you need to do next. Now, it might be that that recommendation is what I want to do next with you is going to be quite creative, but it's also going to be out of your comfort zone. So it's about setting that expectation that I feel confident that you've got this creativity locked deep down inside of you. Work with me now, and I will help bring that out of you. So that's part of your consultancy, or maybe it fits into one of your coaching packages. So I would definitely say get it into an onboarding process. You know where I am, girlfriend, if you ever want to talk about it. Natasha has an amazing offer at the moment. She's offering 50% off of her custom consulting services. The best way that you can find her is I'm That Girl Natasha on Instagram, and I will fish out the link to the sales page and put it in the comments if she's not joining us live right now. And so you can see that if you're tuning in anywhere that's not Instagram, so you can go and check out what she does and find out more about her. I'm willing to bet if you enjoy this live with me, she's like me, but with even more energy, if that's possible. It is, because Natasha exists. Okay, let's move into the next area. I'm just going to see if we've got any chats coming in. Can't see anything yet. That's fine. Okay, so problem number 2. This is from an amazing psychologist, Michelle Minikin, and she's shared something that I thought was just remarkable, and it's weirdly connected with what we're doing in this mini series. So I just had to include it. So if you don't know Michelle Minikin, she's just spent the last 2 years researching for her new book, and her new book is called Good Girl Decoding. And she's given me a composite of all of the different women that she interviewed as part of the research for that book about how to decode this good girl narrative that we've been indoctrinated with when we were young girls. I wonder if teenage magazines have something to do with that, Michelle. You need to let me know that, and we could maybe share some additional findings from your research over the last 2 years. So she said this is a composite of all of the women that she's interviewed, and women are generally feeling this way. So I struggle so much with creative decisions. Yep, we relate. I question my self worth and achievements every single day. Feminist issue. And I stall for so long on posts when I'm making social media posts. And I can stall for so long when it comes to reaching out to new people when I'm trying to do sales in my business. I relate to that. Who relates to that? Who's on here tonight? I think it's a common thread, and I think this probably relates to Michelle's findings about being a good girl. There's this horrible situation we've got ourselves into here on social media, let me know if you agree or not, where there's this idea of I'm perfect and I got it perfect and right first time, and like I'm this overnight success, or all of a sudden I'm amazing as being a mother, or wow, look, I bought a house and now it's a palace. It's like all about the highlight reel. And what that's done collectively in this psyche, according to Michelle's research, is it's created this big fear about taking the leap and making a single creative decision. So there's that layers of overwhelm, layers of perfectionism, layers of comparisonitis, like all of these different things add up. And when we're looking at it from a business point of view, where I can help you when it comes to your branding, you just can't make decisions, or you're just full of doubt when it comes to making every single decision in your business. From Michelle's point of view, this is part of a much bigger problem, and it's something I feel strongly about. That's why I have a brand program dedicated just for female expert entrepreneurs. But I think the first thing I want to say about this is you're not alone, right? So that composite of women, if you were interviewed by Michelle and you happen to be tuning in on this, or if you just relate to what she said there, I think it's important to say you're not alone. I've just ordered a copy of Michelle's book. There's going to be a link to that in the show notes, across socials. I think Michelle might be trying to join us on LinkedIn. If you're there on LinkedIn, let us know. Share the link to buy the book, and pre-order it. Where I can help you from the On Her Terms branding program is I think that this feeds a little bit also into the first phase of the program. So where I was talking about Natasha, where it's about just getting real, let's just get a real picture on what's really going on, or maybe what isn't going on in your business. The next part of that is a fact-finding mission. And after we've determined where you are with your ideas and how you see the business, we back that up with hard facts. And I think this is an important part of psychology, right? We all tell each other, yeah, I'm terrible at this, or I am this way. What you think is not always the full truth. So I know from doing therapy myself, reading a lot of self-help books, navigating the world of anxiety and depression, that a great way to pull yourself out of that thought pattern is to say, hang on a minute, is that 100% true? So that's what this phase is all about. Hang on a minute. Is what you think really 100% true? So we do that by taking an objective view of all of your competition. That can feel a bit triggering. That's what there's a process. I help you through it. You're with a bunch of other women going through it. But we take a look at what is really going on. What is really the truth? Is that person that you're watching who seems to be making all those sales, or who has all those followers, really that amazing? Or have they got a few cracks in the veneer? They probably have, because nobody's perfect. The other side of the fact finding mission that we go on is to get some clarity about your brand from the people who know you best. So that's your different stakeholders in your business. It might be your accountant, your business coach. It might be a diehard customer that you've had for years and years. It might be a brand new customer who doesn't really know you very well. It might be someone that you've collaborated with who is kind of at the same place as you are in your business, but you both do completely different things for different different people, but it's fair to say that you're biz besties or biz pals. We interview all of those people to get an honest read on exactly how they think you're being perceived in the marketplace or in the wide world. And also, it's a really like linear binary way of collecting their ideas for how we're going to develop your brand. So they tell us honestly, but with respect and kindness, what they think you're doing wrong. If they think there's an opportunity in the market that for some reason you're ignoring, it's collecting all of that information, collating it all together, and getting the overall results. It's those two types of non-disputable truths that help in this fact-finding part of phase one. And I think that leans in nicely to Michelle's composite account, right? Of these women who are just struggling every day with creative decisions, questioning self-worth and achievements, stalling for so long. Everyone who's done this program is really frightened about going and looking at the competitors when I show them all the secret ways that you can snoop on someone without ever letting them know that you've done that. The information that comes from that, more often than not, I'm willing to say like over 90% is, wow, I'm so much better than them. Wow, I didn't realize that they were goofing that up. I didn't realize that this was a big error. Or I see that they've had a problem with that. I now feel better about myself because I'm not thinking that they're perfect. You see how that's connected? Let me just take that off the screen and let me know. I think we have a question coming in. Yes, we've got, this is one of my mentors, also known as Brandmaster Flash, Philip Van Dusen. I'll read it out for you guys on Instagram. He says, I love the getting real perspective on the brand audit. Thanks, Phil. I'm always after gold stars off Philip when I see him. So I'm really pleased that he's tuning in and he sees that. Suki has left a comment and she says, this sounds like it's going to be a very interesting read. That's exactly what I thought today, Suki, when I was chatting with Michelle. And I was like, yeah, I need to read this. I need to get this in my life. I'm all about reading books about this sort of thing and understanding so that I can get angry at the system. I do like to get angry at the system a little bit, but the key thing is overcoming the system and doing what we can as this generation of women in leadership to make a change for the new generations coming up. Are you going to buy the book, Suki? Tell me if you are. I know I am. There's Michelle, and she has shared her link on LinkedIn in the comments, and I'll put it in Instagram as well. Fantastic. It's good to see we've got some comments coming in. Let's move in to the next one. And it's actually from Suki, whose comment I just shared. Okay, Suki says, so Suki, if you don't know Suki, she's from the Northeast in the UK. She's very well known, and I would say she's very well respected as just being a beautiful person. I love it when I see Suki at a networking event because I know I'm going to get a massive hug and like a genuine eye-to-eye contact conversation. That's what I feel when I think of Suki. But this is, she's from the Self-Discovery Network, and she's been on a mission for hosting these incredibly inspiring events. The collection of events that she hosts is called I'm Possible. So it's a play on impossible and, you know, mental health and how we see ourselves. And she's done a couple of events recently about storytelling, the art of storytelling. And that's certainly something that connects well to how we build the application part of our branding. So not so much the brand strategy, it's more about branding implementation or touch points. She has another event coming up, and it's also going to be about the power of storytelling. And you can buy a ticket on Eventbrite, but get this, you buy the ticket by donations only. That gives you a great insight to how amazing Suki is as a person. That event is happening on the 25th of June at 6:30 p.m. here in Newcastle in the UK. Suki, will you clarify for me? I don't know if there's an option to watch a replay online for anybody who's tuning in from further afield. I will get clarity on that and I will let you know after we are over and out. Suki is in the comments on LinkedIn if you want to ask her some questions about this. You can click on her name and send her a quick DM. This is what she sent me, and I love this because it's so, if you're in the world of creative, I can say I've got a lot of people on Instagram tonight. Kelly, Tony, G, Nikki, Lauren, Chloe. I can see there's a bunch of my creative pals. I think you're going to relate to this. Here's what she says. I would like my posters, these are posters for the events, to be a little bit more creative, but still on brand. What do you suggest? How many times do we get asked stuff like this? And it's such an honest question. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Suki. Now, I could quite easily pull up the posters, do a little bit of a critique on them, give you my opinions. We could all jump in and bamboozle Suki with technical speak about composition, about alignment, about use of typography, psychology of color. And she's probably going to leave this thinking, yeah, thanks a bunch. This is just the exact same effect that I spoke about earlier on in the show when people post 5 logos on LinkedIn and go, which one should I pick? So I'm not going to do that to you, Suki. I'm not. Instead, I'm going to go into the brand root cause of this question. And actually, this is a perfect opportunity for me to be sharing the QR code to the application for the On Her Terms brand program, because one of the parts in phase 3 that we do is around creative anchoring. Let me know if you've heard the term creative anchoring before. Creative anchoring is about getting ultra precise about creative direction. It's anchoring down a creative idea. So you might come to me. My first question I would ask you a question back to this. You'd say, I want it to be a bit more creative, but still on brand. So I'd say, tell me more about your brand. And usually what people say in response to that, and I've just come up with examples. This isn't Suki's brand. You might say, oh, it's a bit like 70s, but mixed with female empowerment. Brilliant. That's great, but that is not an anchored creative direction. That's a real loose, airy-fairy concept. Yes, you've picked an era and you've picked who it's for and the feeling of what it feels to be an empowered woman, but there is zero precision in there. So I've got a little diagram here. I'm going to try and show you this. I don't know how to do this yet on live broadcasting. It's about getting precision. So when we're talking about the 70s, let's just look at this bit first. So on Instagram, I'm holding it up for you. You can see I've got some axes here. 70s, or we're talking about glam disco, like glam rock, you know, wearing mirrors in platforms, T-Rex, Eat Your Heart Out, Ziggy Stardust, 70s. Or are we talking about the boho, like granola, Led Zeppelin type of 70s, you know, hippies going real out and free in like Laurel Canyon. So that's this extremes of the 70s. And I'll hold that up for you here. Let me take this off. I'll stop plugging my business. 70s glam to boho 70s. So that's the vertical axis here. Then on the horizontal, the x-axis, we've got 2 different types of female empowerment because there's lots of flavors of female empowerment. The first one could be, this is one I'm not a fan of, no judgment if you love this, is like ultra girly, pink, hashtag boss babe. Can you see that? And then over the other side, I've got angry feminist. Now, I know where I sit on that scale. Holding it up here so that you can see it. You've got girly pink, almost like Clueless in the 90s. Hashtag boss babe with glitter on and sparkles and moving each other's crowns around, all of that. And then you've got angry feminist, like, let's burn down the patriarchy, you know, grow our armpit hair, burn the bras, down with the man. So you can see here, that's quite a big area of creative direction reference points. So I've just given us a point A here. So this is where you're probably a little bit more of a hashtag boss babe mixed with a glam 70s disco vibe. So if you're a creative brain watching this right now, straight away your mind is going into, yeah, glittery. We're probably going to go with like neons, pinks, extra sparkle, and that works with this creative direction. Whereas when we're down here in B, we've got a bit more of the granola-y, boho 70s, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young in Laurel Canyon, but mixed with the anger of a feminist who wants to see real systemic change, and she's not prepared to, smash some skulls while she's doing it. A and B use the exact same references that you might have given me, but they are massively different. So this is what this is the beginning part of creative direction. This is like the simple ABCs of creative anchoring, and it's getting it more precise. This way, if maybe you're A, right, Suki, in this hypothetical world, you're A, I would then be able to tell you, right, here's a graphic designer that I know, or here's an illustrator, if we wanted to go with an illustrative element. You can now tell them to design a poster or a series of posters for the event, showcasing the speakers at the lineup. You can have a whole wealth of social media post graphics done. And why don't we do some beautiful tickets that people can like buy the ticket and then frame the ticket, and it's like a nostalgic thing that you keep. There are so many more design assets that you could have connected to your event, Suki. But as a starter for 10, if I gave one of my graphic designers who I would refer on to, or an illustrator, or an artist, or even a photographer, and I said, this is the way that this poster's got to look because this is the crux and anchoring of this person's creative direction, boom, they can go off and do it. And they're probably going to get it right. If not first time, they're probably going to get it right a lot quicker than if we went with the rough idea of it's a bit 70s mixed with female empowerment. Can you see the difference? Let me know in the comments. The designer is going to have laser sharp direction, and they're going to understand immediately what the feeling is that you're going for, so they can articulate that feeling in your posters or design assets to really affirm what your brand is about. So it's heightening the creativity, but all the while affirming the root, the brand strategy. So it's still being on brand, but it's being more creatively on brand. So it's not about either or, Suki. It's about having the heightened creativity, more conceptual, more realized aesthetic, but that aesthetic is intrinsically anchored down with a solid, precise creative direction. That was a long ass sentence. Now, this would be this sort of map would be like the beginning of one section of your brand guidelines document. And that's actually a tangible output that we have after you've completed the program. You come away with a fully documented brand. So we go through all of that hard work of realizing it, pulling it out of your head, out of your heart, figuring out the direction. But then the big takeaway is that you come away with a document that creatives understand. So if you are like that woman we talked about at the beginning of today's show, who is ready to spend less time in her business and she knows that she needs to delegate, this would be the document of your dreams. This is the document where you hire a junior creative, or you hire a team of different types of creatives, and you say, right, there's the book. I need you to do this by this time, this frequently, go. The chances of them coming back and asking a lot of questions will be significantly diminished had you hired those people and said, right, I need you to kind of create something to help me grow the brand. And everything that we do has a bit of a 70s vibe with female empowerment. That's just going to create a world of questions. Now, you multiply those questions. So the photographer is going to have a series of questions because they want to do a good job for you. They need to know how they're going to do what you need. Designer's going to have a same set of questions. Copywriter, illustrator, sound guy, video production team. The list goes on. And now you're even more of a bottleneck. So if that's something that you're relating to, or you're feeling very frustrated with hiring, maybe you've hired a few different types of creatives and you always feel really disenchanted with what they've created and they just don't get me. My challenge to you is, have you got a brand guidelines document? Has it got a specific creative anchoring in there? If it hasn't, maybe you should be on my program. let me see. Let me see. I've decided. So last week, you may have noticed that I wasn't live, and there was a valid reason for that. I was as sick as a dog. I had no voice and tonsils from hell. So apologies for not being live on the show, but there is a little bit of a silver lining to that, in that I've extended the application date. So the date was the 19th of June. I'm now pushing that back a week, so that we've got more time to take in more applications. You might have been needing to see this live, or maybe the lives that we've got coming up in the subsequent weeks ahead of us. And I didn't want to cut off before you've seen them all, or you've had the chance to get involved with them. The link to apply is here. I'm going to put it in the comments across social as soon as we are over and out. I want you to join me next week if you've enjoyed this. Join me next week and get involved. If you want to have me help you out with a question, if you've got a really funny, weird story or an account, or you just want to share something that's to do with this subject, which is going to be about why am I doing this? So what I mean by that is, when you've had a terrible work week, you're like, why am I even doing this business? What's the point? Why am I doing this? Like, why? There probably would be expletives involved in there. I don't want to get locked out of any social media platforms, so I'm not going to go full pelt on that. But when you kind of have a day, that's what this is all about. So if you can relate to that problem, maybe you have a biz friend who's going through that problem right now. Maybe the external factors of the recession, cost of living crisis, changes in overall international economy are starting to have an impact on them, and they're just losing funding. They're not able to keep up cash flow, and they're like, why am I doing this? That is the perfect live for you or them to tune in. If you've got a funny story about this, send it in. If you've got something to promote, like any of the women we've had on tonight's show, I'm happy to share that. I'm all about building up a network. I love connecting people with other people. I just get a kick out of it. I'm happy to do that. You can submit all of your tales, stories, questions at laurapearman.com live-at-5, and that's the number 5. It's been fantastic to have a chat with you tonight. Let me just see if we've got any chats in the comments. Yeah, we've got some links coming in from Suki and Michelle over on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, ladies. I will populate them across the rest of our multicast platforms as soon as we're done. Thanks very much, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed that. Get involved next week when I'll be live at 5 on Wednesday. Thank you very much. Mwah!